Welcome back to Catalyst University. My name is Kevin Tokoph, and in this video, we're going to continue our discussion of best practices for strengthening the pectoralis major by looking at the middle fibers of the pectoralis major. If you want more information on serratus anterior and the upper fibers, go back and watch the previous two videos. But let's get into the middle chest by first taking a look at the anatomy. If you remember back 2 videos ago when we talked about the upper fibers of the pectoralis major, we mentioned that the pectoralis major is divided into 3 arbitrarily defined regions based on the fiber orientation. We talked about the upper fibers of the pec major. Those are also termed the clavicular fibers or the clavicular head. Next video, we'll be talking about the lower fibers, aka the abdominal head. But right now, we're talking about the middle fibers, which are also called the sternocostal or sternal fibers. And generally speaking, the sternal fibers are going to have overall an exact horizontal component. Yes, the ones on the bottom side are slightly declined. The ones on the upper part are slightly inclined, but on average, they kind of summate to a horizontal component. So we also mentioned previously that to activate any part of the pec major, upper, middle, or lower fibers, you have to have some component that is horizontal adduction. Okay? If movement is totally vertical up and down, you're really not going to have any chest contribution. You have to have some horizontal adduction, adduction. Okay? And based on the fiber orientations of the middle fibers, it's going to be horizontal adduction pretty much in neutral. Pretty much in neutral, where the arms are essentially moving parallel to the floor if you're sitting or standing upright. And then we have this study, which we looked at 2 videos ago as well, with respect to the upper fibers of the pectoralis major. And you see those brown circles there, and you see the top or peak activity of the upper fibers is going to be at a 30-degree angle of inclination. So incline bench, those type of movements for upper chest. Now for middle fibers, the yellow circle, what we see here is that the activity peaks at 0 degrees. So if you're doing a bench press, it's going to be totally flat. If you're doing chest flies in a standing or sitting position, the arms are going to be parallel to the floor. And then for supine flies, well, you're going to be totally flat again. So 0 degrees, very important to understand. What's interesting also, and we'll get to this more in the next video on the lower fibers, is if you look at the lower fibers, that upside down brown triangle with the red border, that one also peaks at 0 degrees. And you see that its activity very closely follows that of the middle chest, middle fibers. One thing about lower chest is some people say that you don't even really need to focus on that. Because if you're already doing flat bench work and targeting the middle chest, you're already hitting plenty of lower chest. We'll still cover best practices for really getting after lower chest in the next video, but understand that if you're pressed for time and you don't have a lot of time to do a bunch of different exercises at the gym, if you're doing a flat bench type of movement or neutral flies, you are probably getting sufficient lower chest in addition to the middle chest. So without further ado, hopefully all that makes sense. Let's get into the specific exercises to best target the middle fibers of the pectoralis major. Now, if you watched my video on upper chest strengthening, you might notice that these 3 exercises look awfully similar. In fact, they're the same exercises. It's just they're no longer done on an incline. They're done flat. And that's going to be what targets the middle chest. Same rules apply. You want maximum stretch on that pectoralis major, and you just do it at a flat or 0 inclination. Now, the first exercise I'm going to show you is the flat bench press, which you see right here. I'm choosing to perform this on this machine right here. The nice thing about this type of machine is that it moves on a fixed path, so you don't have to worry about stability. You can really focus on loading up the middle pectoralis, and if you need to bail, it's really easy to do so. You don't need a spotter, anything like that. You just want to make sure that if you're using a machine like this, it does allow you to get deep into that stretch position to maximize gains on the muscle. You can also use dumbbells. I know Ronnie Coleman used to do that a lot. Here's a clip of him doing that. Again, you just want to make sure you're getting deep into that stretch position there. Okay. You can use a standard barbell, and you should probably do that if you're doing this for competition purposes to increase your actual flat bench. But understand that from a hypertrophy perspective, this is not as effective as doing these other variations I just showed you or using a cambered bar. Nice thing about the cambered bar is it allows you to get really, really deep into that position. And that actually can have a lot of carryover to just a general flat bench with a regular bar because you're stronger out of the hole for having done a cambered bar or any of these other variations. So that is the flat bench press. That leads us to exercise number 2, which is the horizontal chest fly. And here's an example of a horizontal chest fly. This version is done on the back, totally flat on a bench using dumbbells. And this is the variation that I know Arnold Schwarzenegger used to do when he was in Gold's Gym. That's not the only way to do it. My personal preference is to do it sitting with back support and using cables, and that is both arms at the same time. You can see that right here. As opposed to the incline chest flies, again, we do this totally horizontal, so the arms are moving parallel to the floor. Again, we want maximum stretch on that pectoralis major at the back there each time. Really accentuate that stretch. Get used to that stretch. That's going to be where the majority of the gains are, other than the progressive overload. But horizontal chest fly, great exercise, a really good secondary exercise, or you could say an accessory to the bench press. Definitely perform your chest flies. And then exercise number 3 is the deficit push-up. Now, a lot of people see push-ups and they're like, oh, these are easy. These are regressions of the bench press. Why would I just do push-ups if I can just do the bench press and load a lot of weight on it? Well, if you're doing push-ups, just trying to get to 100 every day, just repping it out, okay, they're probably not going to be as effective as they could be. We want the exercise to pay us. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a deficit. We're going to put a couple plates on each side, and those plates elevate our hands, allow us to get even deeper into the push-ups. Otherwise, if we didn't use the deficit, our chest would ground out on the floor and limit our depth. So those plates give us that deficit, which then gives us the depth. That depth then gives us a really strong stretch on the pectoralis major, which is very important. The other thing that you want to make sure you're doing on these is slow them down. Do not rush through these. Control it down to the bottom, feel that stretch, push up to the top. But you should not be rushing through these. You should probably, if you're using enough resistance, probably feel your muscles gassing out around repetition 8 to 12. And if you did these really fast without a deficit, you might be able to pump out 3 times that. But that's not our goal. Our goal is to maximize stretch on the pectoralis major at the bottom and get the most out of the exercise for less. So those are 3 really good exercises for strengthening your middle fibers of the pectoralis major. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the lower fibers of the pectoralis major, so join us then. But please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification button for notifications for all videos in the future. Thank you so much.